Hi. Shall we discuss one of the strangest Sister Wives episodes to ever mash up together ever? Because it's in season 2, and it is a weird one with the A and B storyline. I feel like for a long time we got these weird A and B storylines in Sister Wives, and then eventually we really kind of stopped getting that, and then now that everything's kind of gone to the wayside, we're getting like A, B, C, D storylines. It's weird. But let's talk about this one because it's the weirdest mashup ever. Polygamous Party. I'm telling you, forever the weirdest mashup of storylines in Sister Wives history. So, let's dive into it. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cozy. I like to snark about Sister Wives here on YouTube. I do like to remind you that these videos are for entertainment purposes only. These are not facts. They're just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives on television. So if we're cool, we're cool. All right, so before we hop too far in, the temperature blanket is coming along nicely. You can see we added some 80-degree days in here. We got a few hot ones toward the end of April, beginning of May. And I've got a lot more to go. I'm almost done with the month of May. Well, I'm a couple weeks into the month of May. So, let's hop into this party, discuss how weird this is, and we can talk about more things later. All right, cool. So like I said, this is one of the weirdest mashups of things ever because the storylines we get are we're having a party for our friends to say thank you, and Meri needs a colonoscopy. What? They're weird. I have never called myself a film critic. I'm not going to get into the dichotomy of the happy party and the anxiety of the colonoscopy intertwined to create. That's not who I am as a person. I'm just here to talk about this stupid show and say the things that I think about it. It's weird, but if it was happening at the same time, okay. I actually don't know if it was, and I'll get into the weird timeline stuff eventually. But they open up by saying that they're having a dinner party for their non-polygamous friends. Just say monogamous. Just say monogamous. Because they used to have a barrier there because of the polygamy secrecy. Like, they couldn't have them around to come hang out and be friendly because, goodness gracious, heaven forbid that they find out Cody has more than one wife. Okay. But now they're public. It's great. We can have them all here at the house. But before that, Meri's got to go get a colonoscopy. And it's either the earliest appointment that's ever existed or the latest based off of how dark it is when they get there. And it's the wrong car for snow. Are you kidding me? I have lived in the Midwest my whole life. Watching Cody slide around in that little convertible is giving me anxiety. So my whole life I've grown up with snow, right? Like, there have been a few years where I lived in Florida. There was no snow, obviously. And one of the things that I always told myself when I was younger was I would know I'd made it when I owned an all-wheel drive vehicle. Like, that was my thing. I would know that I had made it once I had an all-wheel drive vehicle. And we own a Subaru now. Make fun of it all you want, but I haven't been in a ditch or slid around in years. I'm happy. But, bro, he could have driven anything else, and it probably wouldn't be slippy sliding around. And I guarantee you he does not have his kitty litter or any of his heavy stuff in the trunk. And if you are from here, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, the kitty litter is to help you get traction on the ice. So, Meri has a family history of colon cancer, which is quite sad. Her sister was diagnosed at 31, nearly 6 years prior to this episode. And unfortunately, as hard as Teresa fought, she ended up losing her battle 11 months after her diagnosis. She was already at stage 4 by the time that they had caught it, but she fought up to the last moments, Meri shares with us. She had 4 small children that she did not want to leave behind. And Teresa was a second wife. Her sister wife took in those children and continued to raise them to give them that stable family home environment where they still had their father and they still had their siblings around them. Meri recounts that the youngest child was only 4 years old at the time. And so this was a huge undertaking because the first wife loved the children so much. She was willing to do it. She didn't care how big a deal this was. She didn't care how hard it was going to be to add these 4 children into her day-to-day routine. So Robin's like, there's an unspoken rule about this subject. I would take another wife's children and raise them if anything happened. I really doubt that that was the case in later years. I don't know if she meant it when she said it, but my opinion is that in later years that would no longer have been the case. Frankly, if something had happened, Christine would have taken Janelle's kids. Janelle would have taken Christine's. They both would have taken Mary's. I think that would have been, a very honest, truthful thing that would have happened there. So I kind of partially think that maybe the way that Robin is stepping up could potentially have been a little bit to impress Cody. Like, hey, I know I'm new here, but I feel completely comfortable and perfectly fine with taking on this responsibility. So maybe that's the case. But I would rather have liked to hear Christine or Janelle speak up about it because I'm sure it actually has been discussed over the years. And I would like to know how the sister wives had plans of dealing with this before Robin came into the family. Because Robin's like, oh, it's a given that I would take them. They're my kids too. You've been here a year. Calm down. But Janelle says in regular society, the expectation is that the children go to a sister or a grandma should the parents no longer be around. But for them, the other mothers are already there, so they just try to continue life as normally as possible. But Robin brings up that for her kids, it would be more complicated because of their biological father. And Christine shakes her head and she's like, I would fight for them. And I understand that Robin's position is quite a bit different. In fact, while mulling over the decision of whether or not I'm going to do brain surgery, one of the things that sticks out to me is the need to get moving on having my husband adopt my son. Because I don't want there to be any confusion if something happened to me during that surgery. I do not want anybody stepping in saying any silly things should something happen. We already had plans for this to happen well before finding out about this, but we just need to get everything handled and taken care of so that we can make next steps, because I'm not going to feel secure enough to go under the knife until I am sure that my kid will be taken care of. I understand Robin's concerns there in some capacity. At the doctor's office, it is ridiculously dark. Like, ridiculous. Meri is there and ready to discuss with the doctor her family history and all of her next steps. She knows that having a sibling die from cancer has raised her chances significantly. And she also knows that colon cancer is one of those that doesn't really necessarily have quite as many early on symptoms. They're a lot easier to confuse with something else entirely. But people definitely tend to notice in the later stages. So this scan is going to be very, very important. And she is very nervous for this consult. She is trying to stay optimistic, but you can tell that she's worried. So she relays her story to Dr. Carnam, and he's understanding of why she's there, and explains that the procedure for a colonoscopy, is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. They do them all the time. And she said once she realized how much greater her risk actually was, everything became more real to her. So she says that going through, that even through getting this colonoscopy, life is continuing as normal, and they need to plan this dinner party for their monogamous friends. Okay, I'm not being insensitive, but a colonoscopy actually is a very common procedure. So, life isn't going to stop. I mean, for pity's sake, I didn't expect the world to stop when I got my lumbar puncture done, because in the grand scheme of things, those are relatively common too. So, no, nothing's going to stop. You do have to keep going. Sorry. But Meri and Christine are at Robin's to plan this dinner, and they explain that none of their friends that they're inviting are in their faith at all. None of them go to their church. They don't believe the same way they do. These are friends that they've had for a very, very long time, and most of them didn't know about their lifestyle in the beginning. So Cody wants to thank them for being their friends, even though they're social pariahs. This is going to get weirder before it gets better. All of you who've seen this already know that. So Meri takes the initiative in moving the furniture around and kind of working out the best setup in the living room for the guests. She's kind of moving Robin's couch. She's kind of fiddling around with different things, trying to figure it out. And Meri shares that before becoming a public, she just sort of left people at a distance. She didn't want to bring them even closer. And Robin's like, I never shared my beliefs. And Christine says her granddad had been jailed for polygamy, so she was kind of hush-hush too. But Meri's explaining how she would like the tables to be placed with everyone. She kind of wants to do it in a particular fashion, trying to make sure that it'll work. And Cody's like, listen, you need to test people to know that they're safe. Janelle's like, once you get this label, nobody sees you as you. They just think that they know you because they know what your lifestyle is. And Christine's like, listen, the kids were so nervous in letting this secret out. They knew what people thought about families like theirs. They relay a story about one of Christine's daughters being picked on, and one of Janelle's sons saying, hey, leave my sister alone, and how panic-inducing that was to be like, oh no, the secret is out. Because kids are not going to automatically assume that somebody comes from a polygamous family. I'm sorry, divorces happen, things happen. That could be your sister. Who knows? But Janelle specifically calls out women without a voice and the underage brides as being a big issue. And these two things are very well known. And I would argue that the lack of voice has been displayed on this show over the years. We are getting more and more now as seasons 16 through 18 have come out, where the women are saying things that they never would have said previously, meaning that we're getting to hear a whole different voice from them than voices that we've heard in the past. And Cody's like, listen, we were much more subdued because we'd each experienced rejections at a different level. And it is because we're different. And he says people don't like what they don't understand. And while that's entirely true. They also don't like what they see as exploitative behavior, and frankly, historically, that's kind of what this has been. So Cody calls the ladies and he's like, hey, what do you need? And they're still working out the menu because we are always 35 steps behind. So they tell him, listen, we're going to call you back in a little bit. And I played this back multiple times. And I'm going to chastise myself here because I played this back multiple times. Cody does say, I love you. I have said that Robin is crazy and he didn't say it. I played it back multiple times. It's in the subtitles. He actually does say, bye, love you. So when Robin says it back, it actually was there. So, past Cozy, listen to me. You made fun of Robin. It actually was there. Sorry. But over the years, I've called her crazy. He did say it. So she did not need to chastise the other wives for not saying it back. The whole thing got super awkward when she was like, whoa, did you say it? And he said, love you. This is not how they've operated in the past, I'm guessing. But Robin makes it significantly more awkward by policing them. You need to say it back. You need to say it back. Well, what if in the past, when it had been a group I love you, you weren't supposed to say it back? So, I don't know. Also, that's really one of the only times we've ever heard Cody do that. I know we've heard Brady Williams do that on My Five Wives, but we've never really heard Cody do a group love you prior to this. So, but Robin's going off on the couch about how can you do this? And he said, and saying, that other women are like, in their brains, he's cheating on you. I mean, I guess cheating definitely is in the eye of the beholder. People are going to have arrangements that work for them, but I've been cheated on in the past. And it's really damaging to the psyche. You just constantly are asking yourself a lot of questions. Like, what was wrong with me? Why did you do this? Why me? What wasn't I giving you? What's wrong with you? You're asking so many questions. And even if you know it's not about you necessarily, you definitely are still going to wonder, why weren't you good enough? Why is someone lying to you like this? You almost kind of find yourself wondering what's going on behind closed doors and start to question your abilities to trust. And there are a lot of days where you're just like, am I ever going to be okay again? Is this ever going to be okay again? So you have to be very secure in your choice to be okay with someone having multiple partners. Robin, Meri, and Christine seem to be on the same page. So does Janelle. So I guess, if they don't see it as cheating, then we shouldn't either. But three of the wives, Robin, Meri, and Christine, are headed to the grocery store, and they see military members in uniform, and they start daring each other to whistle and catcall them. But Robin's like, listen, we have a very different way of viewing things, and it's really all about the girl. Number one, I fail to see how that's the case, especially in this family. Number two, can we stop infantilizing women? These are relationships that are between consenting adults, and you're trying to drop the image of underage brides. So calling them girls is not going to help you. These are women or ladies. So the women, she continues to say that if a woman lets her guard down and decides to find out who they, as in the Browns, really are, it's a girl party. And Christine backs her up and says, all girls love a girl party. I hate the infantilization. I just do. I don't know about that. I've known some really catty ladies in my lifetime, and I would rather not party with them, and I'd rather not party with them for time and all eternity. Thank you very much. But Meri's like, listen, we have a lot of fun everywhere we go, even if it is the grocery store. And Cody's like, did you get loud? And Meri's like, yeah, a little bit. And Janelle goes, this is why I don't go with them, because they're embarrassing to be with. Time and all eternity, Janelle. Back at the house, it is exam day, and Cody is collecting Meri for her test. And he does the worst thing imaginable. He's like, are you hungry? Of course she is. She isn't allowed to eat, you dork. Like, woman's not been allowed to eat, and she had to do colonoscopy prep. And anybody who's known anybody or had to do it themselves knows. She's miserable, okay? She explains Teresa's story again and then why this is so important to her. And she's like, we were all told, all of her siblings were told that 6 years ago we should have gotten checked, and she's been putting it off. And Christine's like, I was so angry at her because I've been saying for years that Meri needs to get this colonoscopy. She needs to get checked. She needs to make sure everything's okay. And Janelle's like, yeah, I was super frustrated too, because Teresa's doctor felt there could be a genetic link, a hereditary connection. And so Janelle's like, this is something to take seriously. And she's right, it is. If you have a family member who has anything, and they tell you, hey, everybody should get checked because it could be hereditary, it could be genetic, it could be whatever, do it. Please. I know it can be a scary step. Please just take care of it. So Meri does go in for a procedure, and she says that 4 of her siblings have all had the colonoscopy done, and all 4 had polyps. So she's like, that's a pretty high number. It's a 100% factor currently, and polyps do not always turn into cancer, but they definitely increase the risk. So Cody said that when Teresa passed, it was utterly devastating, and they had that even having to consider the possibility of having his own wife pass in the same way is heartbreaking. So Meri's like, if they find any polyps, they're going to remove them. They're going to send them to be biopsied. If they happen to be malignant, then that is when treatment plans will be discussed depending on the size and the stage at which they would find it. So Meri is getting into the room. She's sitting down on the bed. She's definitely starting to get nervous. You can tell. And Cody's like, we've never discussed what to do if Meri had cancer. I guess we'll just have to figure it out. So Dr. Carnam explains how things are going to go. Meri's not going to be in pain. She'll be asleep. And so Meri definitely falls asleep pretty quickly, and she's a very brave woman because not only is she having this film for national television, she's letting Cody come in the room and watch. And I went to my husband after rewatching this, and I was like, hey, by the way, if I ever have to have a colonoscopy and they ask if you want to come in, the answer is no. There are many procedures I will allow you to be in the room for. This is not one of them. Please do not come in. If they offer to let you watch them put a shunt in, don't come in. Basically, if it's not another C-section or birth, we're cool if you stay out. Like, that's pretty much the extent of the innards. So they do find 2 small polyps, and both were removed. So it's going to take a few days to get the results. And Dr. Carnam comes in to talk with her. She is definitely still groggy, but he tells her how great a job that she did. And she's nervous waiting for the results, but the dinner party is helping keep her mind off of it. And this is part of where the timeline starts to get a little weird for me, so bear with me. Cody is now calling it a friendship appreciation dinner. And once again, the weirdest storyline on the show, in my opinion. We are bringing a bunch of people we'll never see or hear from ever again onto the show. And I really think they just needed this B storyline because nothing else was going on and Meri was having a colonoscopy. Also, this story would never have been fleshed out enough to be its own episode, where Meri's storyline actually could have been. So, Robin and Christine are rushing into the house at this point, and Cody stops to take a time to yell at Christine. Now, he is outside shoveling snow, and I did not realize until I watched this again with fresh eyes how much he really is talking down to her here. He's like, hey, where's the help I was supposed to have with this? I need this done before the spring season. Then do it. Quit whining, get the shovel, and do it. It's a small driveway and a relatively small path. I could get this done in under a half an hour if I put my mind to it and didn't open my mouth to whine at Christine. You know what? An hour and a half tops if it's icy. I expect that you should be able to do the same. I know that I could do it in that amount of time because I have a longer driveway than Robin does, and I'm the one who goes out to shovel it. And we get a ton of snow, so I know how long it takes to shovel. Now, I go out to shovel it because it's my preference. I like to do that. It's my time to meditate and take a little bit of time with God and just shovel snow because snow is my favorite. I love snow. My husband does not love snow, does not meditate, and does not take that same amount of time. So that is a chore that I personally have asked to do and have put on myself. So let's clarify that before somebody's like, oh my goodness, why are you out there? Because I want to. But also, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna are inside. Give them a shovel. Why does Christine need to have Janelle's boys come over and do it? You know what? Why don't you give baby Shirley a shovel? I bet she can get it done. Make sure it's a garden shovel, though. Yeah, no, I will call back to the more recent seasons for sure. I know I'm heated. The way he speaks to her over literally nothing is insane. He yells at her again and he's like, hey, weren't you supposed to have one of the children do this? She is a better woman than I am when she's like, this is not a time to talk. Because she points out that I don't want to talk to you when you're like this, number one. But number two, you're not talking to me in a way that really is talking. Like, what else is he going to be doing? We already know that he doesn't help, organize parties, put them together, set them up. He doesn't help cook. Like, I don't know if this is one that he would have done that because it's at Robin's house. So basically, is he just mad that he didn't get to sit down on his butt and do nothing while his sons come over and shovel Robin's driveway? Let's be serious. Because Christine says she was already probably defensive because that she thought he was just getting after her. He was, honey. Like, that's what was happening. He just didn't want to do it. So Robin says that cooking is a very social event for women. And if you have everybody in the kitchen, it's going to be tons of fun. She doesn't live in the big house, and she thinks that they're just having fun literally all of the time without her. And Christine points out sometimes we're not having fun with each other. Sometimes we're separate too. And Robin's like, oh, I just assumed you were always having fun. So Christine's like, listen, we have to do this for Thanksgiving because this actually is really enjoyable. And I will be honest, when I'm cooking, please leave me alone. I don't want extra hands in the kitchen. I like when my husband comes to help me with things. I do, because it feels nice to work as a team. And there are times where it's like, hey kids, do you want to come and watch? Whatever. But I have a really teeny tiny kitchen. It's a galley kitchen. And so with everybody shouting over top of each other, the dog underfoot, the cat underfoot, the kids underfoot, the husband underfoot, somebody's going to get hurt and it just stresses me out. Just get out. I don't want a bunch of people in my tiny kitchen. Like, I just don't. But Christine is making ambrosia salad, and she tries to feed some to Robin, and Robin's like, I will barf. I don't know why. It's not that bad, really. It's just ambrosia salad. Like, unless you get the weird people who for some reason feel the need to put mayonnaise in their ambrosia. You know who you are. Don't do that. You don't put mayonnaise in ambrosia. What is wrong with you? Robin says that when Cody isn't around, I'm sorry, the flow is much better because it gets really tense when he's around. No one wants to hurt somebody else's feelings or step on any toes. She's like, you really have to like avoid showing him any affection because there's jealousy if they think that he's showing you too much attention. And so interspersed in Robin's explanation, Meri is asking for opinions. Do we want 3 separate tables or one long one? Mary's like, I don't like 3, but Robin does. And I remember when they were originally talking about this, Meri said she wanted 1 long table, and then Robin set them up in 3. But Robin shares that she and Meri have this great relationship, as does she and Christine, notably leaving out Janelle. But when Cody comes around, they no longer focus on each other. They just focus on him. And Robin's like, yeah, I can get jealous for sure. And Cody's telling Meri, I think only 2 tables will fit if we do it long way. And then Robin says, listen, I think we should try it. And she says it real quiet, and then she stomps over, throws one of the tables, and you can actually see the look of surprise on Meri's face as they begin, like, reshuffling the tables around. Because obviously, I don't know what the whole situation was there. Meri said, Robin prefers 3. Cody said he didn't think it would work, and now all of a sudden she wants to try it, and she's angry. I don't know. She goes on to share, though, that she and Cody are close and they love each other, but there are days when she can tell that he's been talking to the other wives and is experiencing a closeness with them. The other women have said, yeah, we can tell who you've been talking to, though notably they call out Robin as being the person. And she's like, listen, I'm secure in myself and in my relationship, so it doesn't bother me. But the friends are arriving and now it's getting loud, and Cody's like, I just came to the conclusion that I need to be public. From a piece of scripture where Jesus says to put your light on a candlestick and not under a bushel. He means Matthew 5:14 through 16. I'm using the King James Version here. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light shine so bright before men that they may see your good works and glorify the Father which is in heaven. Okay. So once again, that's Matthew 5:14 through 16 in the KJV. So he means that he took that to mean stop hiding who you are and be what you are, which is not the context of the verse. Contextually, Jesus is explaining that those who have heard his teachings should not hide them, because those who hear the teachings and do not follow and teach others would be called the least of those in heaven. In other words, if you hear what Jesus says and then go and hide it or don't share it with others, or share it with others but don't actually live it out, you'd be called the least in heaven. The irony of this is it's about not leading others astray. And by the teachings laid out in the New Testament, that's what Cody's doing. Promoting polygamy would go against the teachings of the New Testament, ergo being led astray, making the fact that he picked this particular passage very ironic. So Christine's like, I've loved being open with who my family is and what they all mean to me. Janelle's like, I never told anybody until we went public. At work that day, there was a ton of gossip going on. Like, people were running back and forth to different cubicles, staring at her and whispering, Janelle's a sister wife. So she says that a lot of people with different family structures did approach her, and it was like kind of a camaraderie of understanding. Like, things aren't all the same in every family. But the friends are telling little stories about different moments in time. We have got one who calls out Cody and was like, hey, finally I asked him, how many wives do you really have? So there's a friend who has known for a while. Christine's former boss, who introduced her to people as a polygamist. But we kept them at bay, right? Um, or Robin's friend from middle school, who was the only one who knew that Robin was a polygamist in middle school. No, Robin was the child of a polygamist in middle school. But we're going back to the doctor, where Meri is getting her results, because that's all we needed for this whole party. That's it. It was just those couple of minutes with these people who, once again, we will never see or hear from again. But so Meri's going to go and get her results. And obviously, we know at this point in our timeline that everything's fine. She's okay. But she's going to need to make sure she gets regular checkups. So this was the moment that made her realize that how fragile life could actually be. Getting these results, hearing that she's okay, kind of being able to take that deep breath and realizing, oh my gosh, how on edge was I about all this? And Cody's like, we should appreciate all our time together. And Meri says, I do. And it's a very pointed way that she says it. Like, I appreciate it, but I don't think that you do. So it's interesting to point out this is definitely out of order for our next episode, because Dr. Carnam says Happy New Year to them. And in the next episode, it's Christmas at the cabin, which is another one where I'm very likely to get angry at how Cody talks to Christine. So the timeline's a little weird, because obviously Meri's getting her colonoscopy somewhere around Christmas time, for her to get the results around New Year. And I don't know when that party happened, but why would they be planning this big party when they're trying to get away to the cabin and do all of it? It's just a weird timeline. Part of me thinks that the party happened after the colonoscopy was already done and she already had the results and knew, but I can't say for sure, because I'm not about to go and violate laws to look up people's medical records. I'm sure there are people on YouTube who would. I'm not one of them. So yeah, that's it. And then we go on to Christmas at the Cabin, which I think is a 2-episode arc. Weird times. The first one, obviously very odd. The second part of that is, pretty normal Christmas time. So, with that said, that's all I have for Sister Wives. I guess I will let you guys know that I called around and I found a neurosurgeon to do a consult for my stuff. Once I have a little bit more information and get a chance to process all of it, I'll let you guys know, because I haven't had that consult appointment yet, and there's nothing I can tell you until I do, right? So we'll see how that's going to go. Other than that, I don't have much exciting. My husband's going to be off here soon, so we're going to see. We're going to see about if we can do a baking stream while he's off. If not, we're going to plan it for his next days off, which be in about a week and a half. So, but I'll get it up there so we can figure out times, what we want to bake, what we want to do. I'm very excited to get to do it. I don't know if you could hear that, but one of my children is laughing because I'm filming in the daytime. In fact, I'm filming in the daytime so much, this is actually going to go up the same day it was filmed. For the first time ever. It will not be like 12 hours after I filmed it that you guys get to see it. I know, right? It's such a shock. Anyway, so I'm going to go see what all that giggling is about, and I will see you guys real soon. Bye!